As we continue our study through the second great prayer of the book of Ephesians, we are in chapter 3, and we're looking now at verse 17, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, is where we left off last time. And we go on, and that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and the length and the height and the depth. So let's back up here. He's praying for strength. He's praying that God would grant us strength to do certain things. And one of those things is that Christ may dwell in our hearts through faith. And now he is saying that you being rooted and grounded in love. So on the basis of something, being rooted and grounded in love, he goes forth. So let's think for a moment. He gives us an architectural and an agricultural illustration. On the one hand, he wants us to be rooted. So to be rooted is the idea of having roots, obviously. If you plant a tree, you plant that tree in the ground, you put the roots there, you get the good soil, you dig the hole just right. If you do all the things that are right, that tree will flourish because it's rooted properly. On the other hand, we have the word grounded. That's the idea then of a building, a good foundation for a structure so that it stands solidly, it doesn't tip over, it doesn't blow down in the wind, it has a good grounding. So he wants us to be rooted like a good tree. He wants us to be grounded like a wonderful building, and he wants that all in love. And so the soil upon which you and I are rooted, and the soil upon which you and I are grounded is that of love. And that is part of the strength that he's giving us here, that we might be rooted and grounded in love. But now he goes on, he says, may be able to comprehend on the basis of that flowing out of this love. He says that you'll be able to comprehend, understand with all the saints what is the breadth and the length and the height and the depth. So part of this prayer is that we might be able to comprehend something. Flowing out of love, comprehend something. But what is that? Because he leaves us dangling here. He doesn't give us an object of this. He simply says, what is the breadth and the length and the height and the depth, and then he breaks off. So what is he talking about? Well, there's two real options. Before this verse or this phrase, he's talking about love, and we're rooted and grounded in love. In the next verse, he talks about love, to know the love of Christ. And so it would seem very natural that he's talking about the very depth of the love of God. He wants us to comprehend the breadth and the length and the height and the depth of the love of Christ. To dig deeply into these things and to love him. But there also seems to be a distinction that he makes between love and whatever he's talking about here in verse 18, because the next verse he says, and to know the love of Christ. So it seems like he's separating the two, and there's something else he has in mind. So what could that be? Well, his overall subject, the thing that he's talking about, is strength. He's praying that God will grant us strength so that we can live the life that God wants us to live, which is rooted and grounded in love. So I think probably the best answer here is he wants us to understand the height and the breadth and the length and the depth of the strength of God that is available to the child of God who is walking with him in faith. And so that includes love. And as we put it together, we put the two together, he is not praying that we would have some kind of stoic, mechanical strength, kind of like a robot, kind of going through the motions of that a robot would go through, but no feelings, no emotions, no life, just mechanical. He doesn't want that for us. He wants us to have the knowledge of the strength of God that is infused with love. It flows out of love, it leads to love. And so it is a strength that is experiential, a strength that is emotional, a strength that is bathed in the love of Christ. What a wonderful thing to consider, that we would know the love of Christ in that way, that we would be so rooted and grounded in the love of Christ that we are strengthened day by day, moment by moment, simply because we know and we believe that he loves us, that he saved us on the basis of his love, that he lives in us on the basis of his love, that he leads us forth on the basis of his love forever we will be surrounded by his love. If we know that, if we believe that, if that's our life, then we will be strengthened. And he wants us to know the very depth of that, every dimension of that kind of love and that kind of strength in our lives. That's his prayer. That's his prayer for you and I. And therefore, we will have a wonderful day of the Lord in the Lord when we know of his wonderful love for us. We will finish up the next part of this prayer tomorrow. We'll see you then.